Good evening and welcome to a special presentation, Ashland Election 2010. I'm Howard Kaplan, along here with David Riley from the Metro West Daily News. And we're going to be speaking with three candidates for selectmen here in the town of Ashland. As you may know, current selectman Adam Schuster has decided not to run for re-election. And at the same time, incumbent selectman Arthur Shapiro is running for re-election. So essentially what we have is three candidates running for two available open seats. And we're going to be speaking with those three men tonight. As I mentioned, I'm Howard Kaplan from WACA. And I want to thank David Riley for being here with us tonight. He'll be asking questions as well.
My pleasure.
The way this will work tonight is we have three candidates. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to introduce himself to you, the home viewer. And then we will simply ask each one of the candidates questions, and we'll keep going with that for about 50 minutes or so. And then each candidate will have a chance to reacquaint themselves with you with a closing statement of about 60 seconds. So, without further ado, why don't we start things off by introducing the candidates. From your left to right, we've got Joe Manieni, who's a current Ashland police officer. We want to welcome Joe to the debate tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Current Selectman Arthur Shapiro, who is running for re-election. Thanks, Arthur, for being here tonight. And George, Bill, you go by Bill Bosworth. And Bill, you own a roofing company and have been very active in all sorts of activities here in Ashland. And we want to welcome you to the debate tonight. Bill
Yes, thank you very much for that.
Great. So we're going to start the questioning off tonight with David from the Metro West Daily News. Dave, take it away.
I think actually we're going to ask people to just give us opening statements,
Yep.
about a minute and a half. We'll start off with Joe and work our way to the right.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I would like to thank WACA Cable TV for providing this forum this evening so the residents could hear us talk about the different topics that concern Ashland. I'd also like to thank Mr. Howard Kaplan along with Dave Riley for being moderators for tonight's event. And at this time I would be remiss if I failed to acknowledge Mr. Adam Schuster for his many years of dedicated service to the town of Ashland as selectman. I wish Adam well for the future with his newly found freedom and new town with his family. For those residents who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Joseph Manieni. I'm a lifelong resident of 54 years in Ashland. I graduated from Ashland High in 1973, which marks the 100th anniversary of the graduating class from Ashland High School. I continued my education at Framingham State College, where I received a Bachelor's Science degree in Sociology and Psychology in 1977 from Framingham State. I currently work for the Ashland Police Department as a detective for the department. I have currently my duties for the past 28 years of service of the force, which I've held many positions, those being juvenile officer for 18 years, Ashland's first DARE officer for 11 years, Ashland's first school resource officer for 4 years. I've coached Little League, Junior Babe Ruth for 8 years and enjoyed every minute coaching. Personally, I've married a wonderful wife and very supportive wife, Donna Manieni, for 28 years. We have 3 children, Kim, Joseph, Stacy, and I have 3 grandchildren, Jessica, DJ, and Kyle. I'm a member of the Ashland Children and Family Services, which is the former Ashland Youth Advisory Council. I'm an original member of the Ashland Day Committee, which is celebrating our 25th anniversary, honoring Ashland's Town Pride Day. I'm a member of St. Cecilia's Church, Knights of Columbus, Bishop Wright's Council, and I decided to run for this position of selectman after conferring with my family, who unanimously supported my decision to run. I've always wanted to run for public office, but now that my family has grown and on their own, I found that I have dedicated this new free time to this position. Secondly, I sat down with Chief Scott Roma. We discussed my running for selectman. Chief Roma was very supportive of my decision to run for office, and I'm grateful for his understanding and support. I look forward for this upcoming election, and I look forward for a great campaign between Arthur, Bill, and myself. Thank you.
Thank you. You just heard from Joseph Manieni. He is running for one of the 2 open seats. We turn now to incumbent selectman Arthur Shapiro, who's running for re-election. Arthur.
Thanks, Howard. Thank you to WACA TV for hosting tonight's candidates forum and the 2 moderators, David and Howard. I first moved to Ashland in 1974, bought my first home in 1981. I've raised 3 children here in Ashland, and one of my sons and his wife also have a granddaughter, my granddaughter. For the past 25 consecutive years, which is actually nearly half my life, I have served the town of Ashland in a number of capacities as a volunteer. They include various town committees, boards, and other bodies, and also an elected official. I'm very proud of having initiated and implemented 20 different town programs, 18 of which are still active today. I've written 14 regulations, bylaws, and policies, all of which are active today. I'm sorry, I made a mistake on the programs. 18 of the 20 are active today. During the past 25 years, I've been working to make Ashland a better place to live. One priority of mine since day one is the improvement of environmental health. As you know, I was on the Board of Health for a very long time. Preservation of the parcel of real estate owned by Northeastern University, which we now call Warren Woods. Buying that is probably preserving is the best interest of the entire Ashland community. And that's for environmental, recreational, and aesthetic reasons. I have and will continue to support the purchase of Warren Woods by the town of Ashland. I also seek the talent of outside people to make Ashland a better place to live. I have two examples. Currently, as a method to improve students' achievement, I'm currently working with college leaders to bring a project-based learning initiative here to our school system. This is a non-traditional program that comes fully funded. This program applies the best techniques from math and engineering to improve, motivate, and inspire students through their educational experience. I'm also proud of my role with the Ashland Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. We have presented expert speakers from state government, non-government agencies, nonprofits, strengthen the role of youth substance abuse prevention within our community. These are examples of cooperative leadership. Others have said our town only needs more development in order to solve our fiscal crisis. You've heard that from the current board. I believe experienced leadership is needed. Leadership considers the complete picture. What is the cost of growth? What kind of growth do we want? What kind of growth can we afford? What kind of growth can we not afford? What is the true cost to community of all kinds of development and growth? Leadership listens and learns. Leadership works cooperatively with all levels of government. Private and nonprofit sectors are residents. It's good judgment, and hang in there day after day after day to solve problems.
Thanks, Dr.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Arthur. Sorry, we're just out of time on that.
No.
Arthur Shapiro, reintroducing himself to you. He is the current selectman running for re-election. And finally, but definitely not least, we have George Bill Bosworth, who is running. Bill?
Thank you, Howard.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to thank David, Howard, Barbara for having us here tonight for the debate. My name is George William Bosworth. I live at 243 Olive Street in Ashland with my wife, Donna. I have 3 children, Danny, Bo, Christian, and have 7 grandchildren. I have lived in Ashland for 37 years. My children went to Ashland schools. I went to Framingham schools. After high school, I went into the Marine Corps. I served in Vietnam with great pride. I'd worked for the United States Post Office for 25 years. I also had a business, Bosworth Roofing and Remodeling, which my sons run today. I have learned what it takes to run a business, and I believe the town of Ashland should be run as a business. We need to bring more business to the town of Ashland, not run them out, due to the taxes and fees. We are to look into water and sewer problems in the town. We also need to take a better look at our infrastructure. I also think we need to tighten our belts and live within our means. And with that said, I ask tonight that you would vote on May 18th. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. We now move to the questioning portion of the night, and here now is David Riley from the Metro West Daily News. Thanks,
Thanks, Howard. Just want to mention I'm also the editor of the Ashland tab. Bill, we'll start off with you. I think all of you alluded somewhat to the town's financial problems. The Finance Committee did an analysis this spring that said the town has a structural deficit of about $1 million. The town, in each budget cycle, will probably be starting off about $1 million in the red. That's not necessarily unusual in this area. A lot of towns are dealing with rising costs and the limits of Proposition 2.5. I'm interested in hearing from each of you what specifically you think the town could do or is doing and could continue doing to try to close that gap. And again, try to be as specific as you can. Bill?
Well, what I believe to try to cut the deficit, all right, is first form a team, check into where the problems are, where we can resolve the problems. If we have a workshop where we could have a number of different people and get their ideas and work together, we might be able to bring that deficit down. I really can't tell you specifically how we could do it right now until I start checking into the situation.
Fair enough. Arthur?
Chance to rebut? Yep.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's not a deficit. We do have that structural deficiency. Home rule is extremely expensive, and we're starting to do what the rest of the country does, and that's regionalize as much as we possibly can with who we can. You know, it's not a bailout program for towns that are not exactly like ours, and also merging positions within our existing town government wherever possible.
Joe?
In dealing with the so-called deficit, I believe that the town needs to look at other venues to generate extra additional funds. Arthur just spoke about regionalization, and that is something that I looked over and I did some research on. And many cities and many states across the country are going to regionalization. One of the regionalization things that I believe we could do is to look at capital equipment. Instead of purchasing capital equipment individually, maybe we can look at with other towns as a collaborative and buy capital equipment, such as DPW equipment, and share that equipment to help share the cost of this capital expenditure. So hopefully it would reduce this deficit in some way, shape, or form. 126, Route 126, the corridor. I've said this right from the beginning. We need to redevelop. We need to introduce new businesses coming into town. There's a forum tonight, right, and we're missing the forum. And I would love to have been there to hear what the people have to say. But I think that's our gold pot right there. I think we really should look into that.
Okay, thanks. Warren Woods. Two words that have spawned an awful lot of debate, rancor in this town. A lot of letters to the editor in the Metro West Daily News. A lot of folks have very strong opinions, one way or the other. Joe, I want to start with you. Do you believe, first of all, how do you come out on Warren Woods? Should the town purchase that plot of land or leave it open for development? And do you believe that the way the Board of Selectmen has proceeded in trying to purchase Warren Woods has been effective and will be effective and has been done in a manner that is really appropriate, or was there room for improvement?
Thank you, Howard.
Sure.
With respect to Warren Woods, 2 months ago when I decided to run for the seat of the Board of Selectmen, I told a lot of people my concerns about Warren Woods. I'm in favor of purchasing Warren Woods. I am in favor of keeping the legacy of Henry Warren alive and possibly using that as open space and for space that's available for recreational purposes, such as fields for youth activities coming in. There's an area that's already cleared. There's a building already there that could be used as a pavilion. We don't have to clear the land. The land is already there for that function. We could leave the pristine wooded area alone, leave that just the way it is, and leave that as open space. To develop that, I believe they were looking at 100 to 150 homes if it was completely built out. We all know that development is good in the capacity, but it's also a negative. And for every home we build, we're actually in the red. We're not in the black. It'll add to additional services in the town, police, fire, schools, and we're at our limit already. So adding to this is not going to be beneficial to it at all.
In light of that, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just going to do a follow-up. Mm-hmm. In light of that, are you in favor of the vote back in February to appoint John Petrin and the town council Lisa Mead?
I was hoping that there would be more movement with that particular negotiating team. Mm-hmm. Being a negotiator myself for the police department and union contracts, I know what you have to do to negotiate, and I feel that there may have been some personal biases that may have come into play that didn't help the situation at all. And I think that if with a new board that comes in, I think a clearer path will be discussed for that to happen. I think they put the cart before the horse. I don't believe they gave it their full effort in trying to purchase this property. They made an attempt. Was it a wholehearted attempt? My opinion is no, it was not. And I don't believe that they negotiated in a true sense.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Arthur, you have a chance to rebut. You are a part of the board that is involved in these negotiations right now. If you choose, you have an opportunity to rebut.
Of course, be glad to.
Sure.
This has been the most unusual process, negotiating process. We made offers, no counter offers, no asking price. It should be so simple. Those of us who bought property, even an automobile before, would know that. And to continue bidding against ourselves would just be really reckless use of taxpayers' money, CPA funds, and so on. Talk about improvement. Everything we do can be improved. Some significantly, and some just fine-tuning.
Just a follow-up, when you say we could continue to bid against ourselves, what do you mean?
No, well, we have made an offer.
Yep.
To raise an offer, to place another office, I'm sorry, a little nervous, to make another offer higher than the one we made without any other offers out there would be just foolish. The communication with them, it could have been better. You know, if you can imagine a board of directors and a board of selectmen, and the players are between the representatives of both. It's been difficult. I've been extremely frustrated with it.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, I'm 100% for buying Warren Woods, all right, for all the right reasons. First of all, if we build on this property, our taxes are going to go up. If we spend our CPA money, all right, the taxes aren't going to go up for people. People in town get the wrong idea of what's going on with CPA money. Their taxes are not going to go up if we buy it with CPA money. And first of all, I'd like to, my opponent next to me said he was for buying Warren Woods. Well, I'd like to bring a point up in January or February. I think it was his controlling vote that said we do not support buying Warren Woods. I believe it was back in January or February that he said this on the controlling vote. Now, buying Warren Woods would be the best thing the town of Ashland could ever do. We do not have much land left in Ashland. So to develop it and put more service burden on the town, put more school burden on the town, more sewer problems on the town, that we have some sewer problems that we need to look into, that would put a burden on us.
Okay, thank you. David?
I guess staying on Warren Woods, we talked a lot about what the board has done up until now. If you're elected, or in Arthur's case, re-elected, do you have specific steps in mind that you see for a path forward with trying to acquire Warren Woods? It seems everyone's sort of on the same page that acquiring it would be good. What would you do to sort of move the process forward? The board talked a couple of weeks ago now about 2 offers having been turned down. Does the board continue offering more money? Does it wait for another bidder to come along and try to see where the town stands competitively? I guess we'll start with Arthur.
Sure, thank you. Bill, fact, never voted against Warren Woods. Please produce the minutes from that. I would love to see that. Fact, never, ever. In fact, I support it.
Minutes.
Yeah, I would too. Okay. I'm sorry. What is our real goal is preserving the land. If the town can acquire it, which is number one, that would be wonderful. If another organization that does preservation, for example, and I'm not saying they are Audubon or somebody, Sudbury Valley Trustee, something like that, wanted to acquire it, that would be fine also. And Joe, what you said, every time we build a single family home in town, it costs all of us more money. They do pay less in taxes than they use in services, as opposed to businesses, which are the opposite.
Either of you have an opportunity to, or both, to rebut.
Well, having one of the opportunities to speak with respect to this, when you do an assessment, you have an individual assessment that comes in, and the assessment comes in at a certain figure, and then you lowball that figure as a primary offer. I mean, that's insulting. I mean, it's insulting to the property owner. I mean, when I first put my house on the market many years ago, The gentleman came in and lowballed me, and I was upset. I felt insulted by it. So I have no problem with Northeastern being kind of upset with the town of Ashland for not properly giving a true proposal on the table. So they came back with a second offer, and I believe the second offer was 3.5. Well, I believe the assessment of the land was 4.35 million. So again, you're still lowballing the assessment. Now, it's always nice to get to buy the property for less than its value, but in reality, you have to be close to it, and that 3.5 wasn't even close to it. And I agree with Arthur that there is probably an outside source that'd be willing to help the town, and I think that with a new look on the board, I believe getting all the parties together, the principal parties together, and working with this, that it can be done at very little cost to the taxpayer, if at all.
Sure. If you choose to.
Yeah, actually, in Northeastern's own words, our relationship with them is cordial, and one of the things they repeat over and over again is, if it's for sale. We don't know, it's not when. And the appraisal was sent in with the offer. We shared that with them. And throughout the appraisal, it says under extreme, under extenuating, under conditions that if they could build out that many homes. The fact is it's a third wet with buffer zones and so on. We don't know what the real build out is, but I think the three of us do agree that preservation is the priority.
You have a chance, Bill, to respond or not?
Well, there was a motion on the table to send a selectman or two selectmen to represent the town. Selectmen on the board, I believe, either one or two or three should have been involved in this, not just the town manager and legal counsel. I believe legal counsel and one selectman who's on the board should have been there. And I'm appalled at the way that this was done.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Bill. You have, this is actually the third time you are now running for selectman, and I think we admire your persistence and also your general love for the town and your desire to really help. In looking at your background, you've got a lot of private sector background. You've worked for the post office, a lot of background. What have you done in town in terms of serving on boards or doing things kind of more formally with the town that would help as a selectman?
Yeah, I haven't really been on any boards per se in town, but when I first moved to this town, I donated $1,000 to the Little League team when I first moved in. And I was so sure that I was going to have a son when I first moved into this town. I made it Bosworth and Sons, right? So little did I know I had a girl, and her name is Danny, and I love her very much. And I tell her all the time she should have been my son, but I donated $1,000 to the Little League because they didn't have any money.
Sure.
And then they didn't have any baseballs and hats and all that stuff. So I went to my buddy who had 7 bags sitting in a barn, and I said, "What are you going to do with this stuff other than let it collect dust?" So I went and I got that from him, and I donated to the Ashland Little League. And they put on the back of their shirts, Bosworth and Sons. And I'll tell you, that made me feel so good. And I've been involved with hockey. I've been a coach in hockey in the Demon system. I was one of the 4 people that got hockey into the Ashland High School, which Barry Rufield didn't want. But we ran it for 3 years. We said we'd run it for 3 years. And what we did is we raised money in chicken shoots and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean shooting chicken, but we had a lot of fun doing it. And we raised a lot of money. And as well as Jonah being a baseball coach, he was a competitor, I was a competitor. And we loved the kids, and we had a great time doing it.
Good, thank you. You folks have an opportunity to rebut. I don't know if you need to or want to, but it's up to you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Arthur.
All right, thanks. I have to rebut to the previous one. Honesty is my only policy. I'll look you straight in the eye and you straight in the eye. I don't know where you're getting your voting information. It's wrong.
Well, I
Ladies and
respect that,
gentlemen,
Arthur. I'll respect
it's
that,
wrong.
but I'd still like to see the minutes on that. Okay?
You will.
Okay.
It will be released. When the negotiation is over, everything will be released. And
Well,
you will
honesty is
see.
my best policy, and that's why I get involved with politics. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Somebody had to be the controlling vote, and knowing the 2 other people, the controlling vote had to come somewhere.
Sure.
You'll see.
Well, with respect to that,
Go ahead.
I will not take my handcuffs off, but dedicated to the town. Born and raised here, I love the town. I've donated many hours of service to the town. I might as well make it known now that there's a gentleman that comes in once a year with a red suit on during the holiday season. Well, for the last 18 years, I was that person.
No.
Absolutely. And provide a Halloween parade for the kids every year. We've done it for the last 26 years. I'm dedicated to the kids in this community. Always have been, always will be. Whether I'm a juvenile officer or whether I'm a baseball coach or whether I'm just a parent out there in the street watching the kids and making sure that they stay out of trouble.
Sure.
I love the town. I give my heart and soul to this town in many ways. If it's financially or if it's just giving my time, I'll do it. My family understands that, they appreciate that, and there's a lot of rewards for it.
Great.
And that's basically about it.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. We go to Dave Riley of the Metro West Daily News and Ashland Tab.
He learns fast.
Trash fees. The board, the selectmen voted earlier this year to raise trash fees. It's the first increase in about 4 years, as I understand. The cost of the program's been going up, and the town's been able to absorb it for a while, but the board saw some reason to increase what people had charged. Seniors who were charged at a discounted fee were unhappy about the increase that they were facing, and the selectmen indicated that they would probably look to revise the fee system before next fiscal year, when at least the base fee was supposed to go up. And I'm just interested in whether you think the board handled that issue well, and what is sort of the next step there. I guess we'll start with who should we start with now?
Let's see. Why don't we start with the present selectman, Arthur?
Definitely could have done better. I'll answer that right up front. This is a 3-year program that went out a 4th year. I'm 1/5 the board, I'm 1/5 to blame, and I'll accept that. We are developing, it's probably going to go into the next board, a program based on need as well as the senior program. We do have a good section of our population that is struggling to pay this fee, and others. We want to be able to maintain confidentiality as well. By qualifying, one possible method is by qualifying for certain other discounts in town, because there are some of them in a package. This could become that part of that package where people would also disqualify. It's not an easy situation, but we're looking at it.
Thank you, Arthur. You gentlemen have an opportunity. Bill.
I am totally disappointed in the way this was handled. To put a 79% burden on the seniors, and I'm not just talking about the seniors, we have disabled people in the town, we have people who have lost their jobs. The way the board did this, they did it with no discussion, they did it with no hearing, they just did it. That's the sad part right here. They should have went out and told the people what they were going to do, had a discussion on it, and then made a decision. They just made it for you. To the tune of 79% burden put on the seniors and 13% put on non-seniors. I think that's totally appalling.
Joe?
Well, being a fact finder, that's part of my job as a detective. I would have gone out there and talked to the community first. And for Arthur to admit that they could have done a better job, he's a big enough man to admit that, and I appreciate that, Arthur, and I'm sure the other townspeople do as well. To do a better job, absolutely. I mean, I follow the trash truck around, and what bothers me is I see the recycling bins, and I see the regular trash that we pay money for the orange bags, going into the same bill, going to the same till, and being dumped. How can you make a determination what the recycling cost is and what the actual dump fee is? So, I mean, we need to look at that. And if we can look at that, we can get an answer from Waste Management, which is the current company that we use. Maybe we can work out a better price for all people, not just for one group. And I agree with Bill on the fact that 79% burden on the senior citizens is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. And nobody took into consideration on that, and that should have been the first thing. If we don't take care of our seniors, just like we take care of our children, what are we leaving? We're not leaving a legacy that's worth leaving for anybody.
Well said.
Well said, exactly well said.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I can offer something if you like.
Sure.
Sure. 79% increase in actual dollars is $30 a year. I just want to put the facts out. I'm not saying it's right. And the single truck does have separate compartments that they go into. If that helps you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to
thank
make
you.
a point
Sure.
on that.
Yeah, Bill.
$30 may not seem like a lot of money to us or Arthur or Joe, but let me put it to you this way, seniors who live on a fixed income and disabled people who live on a fixed income, that's a lot of money to them. $30 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but $30 at the end of the month for people that can't afford to live, that's a lot of money.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next up, I'm just a citizen, just a mere citizen who volunteers here at the cable station, and I've been reading all the articles that David and Kendall have been writing in the Metro West Daily News. Can someone tell me why, where it was originally proposed that there would be a ballot item on the town meeting ballot this year about Warren Woods, even if it was just a generic, non-binding referendum, that was the original plan, to have something like that on Warren Woods on the town meeting ballot. And then all of a sudden, we decided not to put anything on the town meeting ballot. Because I know there was a very strong sense that that was necessary because it's such a big issue. Town meeting is such a big deal, and as we're taping tonight, it begins tomorrow night. So can just someone tell me why it's not now on the town meeting ballot?
I think I can answer that.
Sure.
The way the negotiations were going with Warren Woods, they were running late and they ran out of time. There was a deadline.
Okay.
All right, so this is why it didn't get put on the ballot. But what can happen is we can have a special town meeting. This is not a dead issue. We can have a special town meeting and still go on with the negotiations and hopefully come up with and resolve
Because as
it.
I understand it, and I could be wrong, I'm just a citizen, I'm not an expert, but as I understood it, that even if the negotiations hadn't been consummated yet and there's been no agreement to anything, the plan was to put a generic non-binding referendum on town meeting ballot just to get a sense of where people stood and then kind of fill in the dollar value later if and when it was agreed to. So I guess that's my question, that even if negotiations are or were stalled, why the kind of back away from putting it on the ballot?
I can't answer for the Board of Selectmen on the decision why they did this. I know
And
that
also, do you folks agree with that, to then decide not to put it on the ballot?
Well, no, I think it should go on the ballot, but there was a deadline, and that's why it didn't go on the ballot. But we're not out of this. I mean, we still can have a special town meeting and go forth with that.
Okay. Arthur?
Howard and Bill, you are correct. The deadline to get it on the ballot for election did expire, and that announcement was made. And you put a dollar amount. The idea behind it was to be as my personal beliefs are, not the board, my personal, I hope the board, and the people that have been asking us is to make this process as open and inclusive as possible, to get the view of the townspeople. And once again, negotiations are still they're ongoing, but we don't have a number to put on town meeting, which I really thought we would. It's ongoing, and as we move forward, we'll if it comes to pass, we will bring something to the town.
Okay.
See, excuse me, if we had put a figure on that, all right, now we're binding on that figure. So now they didn't do this, we can have a special town meeting and then have them vote on that.
Yep.
Thank you, Bill. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry, buddy.
That's okay.
Right. Yeah, the reason I asked it was that I know that there was the plan that even if we weren't even close, that because it was such a big issue, that at least that there would be something on the town meeting ballot. I don't mean to belabor this, but even if there was no dollar value.
I think it should have been on the ballot, and I think, like Bill said and Arthur said earlier, I think if they gave a particular figure, you'd be painting yourself in a corner, and you may not be able to get out of it. So that's not something that you want to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. David.
All three of you, I think, referred to regionalization at some points in your opening statements. And Joe, you talked a little bit about shared purchasing, but I wanted to ask everybody to talk maybe in a little bit more detail about ideas you have for ways the town could combine services with some of its neighboring communities. It's certainly something Ashland has looked at. It approached Southborough about sharing a building inspector. It was turned down. I know the town's been in talks with Southborough and Hopkinton about fire services, and that's sort of an ongoing discussion still. Are there other areas that you think the town should be looking at, or do you see some hope in the fire service discussion? So we'll start with Joe.
Thank you. With respect to the regional collaboration, I think if you looked at the town internally and collaborating within some of the departments, and we have 2 business offices in town, and I know that the school department has their business office, and the town has their business office. With the way we have communicating with computers and things of that nature today, there's no reason why we need to duplicate the efforts here. You talk about regionalization with other schools, and I think John Petrin in his article, with respect to the town meeting article on the budget, said it takes two to tango, and you have to find that other person that wants to tango with you. So I'll quote John Petrin on that. And it's very difficult. Nobody wants to give up their little fiefdom. Nobody wants to give it up at all. Would you be willing to give it up? Because basically what regionalization is, if you want to think about it, is people are going to lose jobs. You're getting rid of the duplicity, and someone's going to lose a job. You're not going to transfer from A to B. That person's going to be out of a job. So you're looking at costs. You're looking at jobs lost as a respect of it. You're going to be saving money, absolutely, but you're going to be losing jobs as a result of that. And I don't think there's one city or town that wants their employees to lose out on jobs, nor do they want to give up their power. So I mean, that's a concern. Do we want to save money? Absolutely. That's the bottom line. It's not trying to lose jobs. It's trying to consolidate and save money. But I don't think individual towns are willing to do that. That's why I was looking at the capital equipment. Denver, the city of Denver, Colorado, did that. They even have a survey online for other participating cities and towns. You fill out the survey. If you need the equipment, you fill out that survey and you send it in, and it's made available to you. So I mean, nobody's losing a job that way. It's capital equipment. And maybe that's something we need to look at with buildings, the use of buildings too. I mean, so I mean, it's starting out small, but it could spread into other areas, and we should look into that as well.
Thanks, Joe. Bill?
When I first ran for selectman the first time, I brought regionalization out. I talked about regionalization. It seems like California starts it out there first, and then it ends up coming towards our way. Well, I have two brothers that live in California, and regionalization is really working well out there. I suggested that we get regionalized with a dispatch center here. Now, out in California, they have 5 towns that are under one, and it's working well. And like Joe said, you know, you don't want to take anybody's job away. I don't want to take anybody's job away. But we're running into problems with state aid. We don't get enough money. My opinion is you want state mandated programs. Send them back to the state. Let them pay for it. And, you know, they say we're going to lose accreditation, whatever. But the state is putting the pressure, and the pressure's coming on down all the time on the towns. We're not the only town in trouble. Every town is in trouble. But we need to stand up, fight back, and send it back to the state.
Okay.
Thanks. We're looking at various things. Recreation departments between Hopkinton and Ashland are going to merge. That's underway. The fire service is a great place to look at because the capital equipment is so expensive, as Joe mentioned, and there's been some talks underway for years now. I've been public safety along with public health is one of my primary interests, and looking at the midnight shift of dispatchers in our general area, we have about 9 dispatchers on, but we could probably do it with 2 or 3. The entire state of California has 3 dispatch centers. Most of the country has county government, which we don't, which automatically, of course, gets you some, efficiencies there. The benefit is, though, is that like the European Union, there's standards before you merge. For example, merging some fire service with Hopkinton makes sense. It's a full-time department, whereas Sherburne is on-call volunteer. Holliston is on-call. So regionalization cannot be a bailout for another community. We've got to come in with equal investment and equal return on it. It's going to be a win-win.
Good. Thank you, folks. Arthur, my last question on Warren Woods.
Oh, sure.
A lot of controversy about a selectmen's meeting in early April where there were a whole bunch of folks that wanted to talk about Warren Woods. And basically, as I understand it, the board adjourned without the opportunity to speak to these people. An awful lot of folks came to talk. As it turned out, I think you were one of some of the selectmen that ended up speaking with the folks kind of in an impromptu session, which actually went on for quite a bit after that whole situation. But it was messy. It appeared, just as an amateur observer here, to be somewhat unprofessional. Do you have regrets about how that went? And if you do, how do you think that should have been handled that night?
Short answer, it was a horrible mess. Shouldn't have happened. If it was If I was chairing the meeting, which I was not, and I'm not blaming anybody, my style is very, very different and inclusive. That never would have come close to happening. It shouldn't have happened. It was wrong.
Why, I'm not asking you to speak for the current chair, but for what reason was the meeting adjourned without letting folks talk? Because there were, as I understand it from the articles in the Metro West News, there were quite a few people there.
Yeah, I can't crawl inside his head and give you an answer, but if I had to guess, didn't appear on the agenda, I'm guessing. And it's not to make that an excuse. It's not an excuse. They should have been allowed to speak.
Okay. Yep.
I'd like to say something on that. Sure. I was there that night. I was waiting to be heard. It was just appalling to everybody. I mean, it started to get out of hand. I mean, I actually stood up and as a peacemaker, and asked everybody to sit down. The chairman made a big mistake by what he did by adjourning and everybody walking out, including our town manager, assistant town manager, who never came back, and Adam Schuster, who never came back. All right. I applaud the people that did come back. They came back, and we had a good discussion. But they made a big mistake on this. All right. The people in this town have a right to be heard, no matter what. They waited 2 hours to be heard, and to just adjourn like they did, I'm sorry, I have a problem with that. And if I am elected, that will never happen again.
Thank you, Bill. Joe?
I have to concur with Bill. It was awful. We were all there. As Bill was trying to settle people down, I was doing the same thing on the other side of the room. People were very upset. And when you take that ability to speak, that's what democracy is all about. The people have a right to speak. Whether you agree with them, whether you disagree with them, the opportunity for them to speak should be made, and that was taken away from them, and that's why people got upset. They had no problem waiting an hour and a half to 45, an hour to 2 hours, waiting, people standing. They shut the AC off. It got warm in there. I mean, it was tactically done. It was like Red Auerbach in the Boston Garden, turning the heat down or turning it up so that the other team would get tired, and they would leave. That didn't happen. What happened was tempers flared as a result of it. It was ugly. That's the only adjective I would use. It was ugly. Some people were unprofessional, and when confronted and asked by me why he didn't give an opportunity for those people to speak, he turned and answered, "I was directed to do so," and that came from Paul Monaco. Everybody heard that. Everybody heard it. Who directed who? You people of the Board of Selectmen. You're the chairperson. Who's directing you? And that was never answered. It still wasn't answered. And what he said to me was, I took it out of context. It wasn't taken out of context. Believe me, it wasn't. There were 75 people in that room that heard the whole conversation. It wasn't taken out of context because they were directed out of Warren Woods' negotiation. That's not what it was all about. And it's on tape.
Okay.
We're trying to bring people back to town government. That was a wrong way to show people how to bring them back.
Integrity, gone as a result of that, as far as I'm concerned.
May I?
Do you want to?
I would like to, if that's okay. Integrity is not perfection. Mistakes, it was, after being in government for a while, I realized, making mistakes is what people do. And I'm surrounded by people dying to tell me when I do, so there's no problem there. And it's not that I'm hiding one motive under another, or I'm turning down, whatever. But the fact is, I realized if I'm not making mistakes, then apparently I'm not doing anything. I'd love to be right all the time, and if I was, I'd be somewhere else. But that was the most unfortunate. And I'm appalled with the two of you. I'd love to do a rerun, but learned, and under my watch, under your watch, it will never happen again.
Well, I think we all agree. I would be totally embarrassed sitting on that board if something happened like that. I would be embarrassed. I really would.
Especially when two other selectmen looked at one another as like, what's going on?
Right.
They were clueless, as was everybody else in the room.
Well, they were disbelief. They couldn't believe that this was happening.
Right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Right.
David.
We all talked a bit earlier about trying to bring more business into town. We've made clear residential development nobody seems to want, but business people are interested in to some degree. Route 126, it's an area the town's looked at for decades now at trying to develop more. There's a very dedicated group looking at it now. Downtown, we've just got back a new state-funded study, essentially sort of confirming a lot of the things we've known for a while about the rail configuration down there and some of the challenges that presents in developing downtown. What can the town do? These are issues that the town has looked at for so long now. What can the town actually do to try to bring in more business, and what kind of business ideally are we looking at? Can I start with Joe?
Thank you. It's my concern. It's one of my big goals to try to generate and bring new businesses into town. How do we do that? Tax breaks, offer them other incentives to come into town. Whether we have the right infrastructure to bring new business into town, that should be looked at. If the town of Holliston has 2 industrial parks and one of them is so far removed from, but yet it's there and it's completely full, why can't we do something like that? Why can't the town says they want to bring people in, they want to bring businesses in, but they really don't. They're not business friendly. Ask any of the mom and pop stores who are no longer there. They're like the way of the dodo. They're shutting up. Why? Because the town's not business friendly with these people. Ask any of the people that are part of the ABA, the Ashland Business Association. They'll tell you the town is not business friendly, and they need to turn that around. We need to turn that train of thought around. They wanted Ashland to remain a bedroom community years and years ago, the town fathers, not this current board, but other boards prior to this board. And as a result of that, they set that in motion. And by doing that, and the planning board and zoning board, I mean, all these things came about, and it's really not business friendly, and they need to become business friendly.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Arthur and Bill, chance to rebut.
Sure, I'd like to. We have run businesses out of this town by taxation. North Carolina, South Carolina are welcoming these businesses in. And just like Joe said, we need to give them maybe a tax break, have a workshop to find out what it's going to take to bring these people in. But I am all for bringing business into this town. We can't tax them to death. I hate to use that phrase, tax-a-chooses, but you know what? We are. Tax, 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 fees, fees, fees. People are tired of taxes and fees. So to go and get a better break and move out of town to South Carolina, a lot of people are doing it. What do we have to do to bring them in here is to study it and see what we can bring in that'll be worthwhile and what's best for the town of Ashland.
Arthur?
Yeah. Our tax base, excuse me, at the moment is about 93% residential. We need business. Over the past year, we actually have created the town government has created a development department headed by Matt Selby, which is trying to do exactly that. You know, at one time we did offer tax breaks and they use them the first 2 years and move out. But, you know, I have to look at a larger picture. The economy is in tough shape. Mm-hmm. And in one sentence, I'll show how small business is the backbone of the nation. But who got the bailout? Who got the incentives? Not the mom and pops. The larger, much larger organizations, the international corporations. It's a sin. It's an absolute sin.
All right, thank you, folks.
Can I make one more comment?
Absolutely, sure.
See, I believe the town of Ashland, all right, and the overspending that we do in certain areas, we should live within our means, not above our means. That's like you getting a credit card and living above your means. I believe this town should be run as a business and not overspend and do the best we can to make a better town.
This question is to Arthur. Recently, there was a report that Ashland's bond rating has actually gone up. A little bit of, I know it's hard to believe, but a little bit of good financial news for a change. I think the first time in about 30 years that I've heard this. No, the bond rating has improved, which is great. So I'm going to start with you, Arthur. What does this mean to the average citizen?
You could compare it to getting a better rate in your credit card. It did a number of things about some of the borrowing we have on the books already.
And sorry to interrupt you. I guess my question is not only what does this mean to us, the citizens, but also how can we take advantage of this?
Okay.
That's my main question.
On our outstanding debt, we've already saved $1.2 million in savings. What would have been an 8-year payoff has been reduced to 2 years. It's fantastic. And then as we move forward, we'll be able to take advantage of a lower rate when we do borrow. Mm-hmm. We'll save the taxpayers a significant amount in interest as we borrow what we do. And we don't borrow as much as we used to, not nearly as much.
Okay. And so for the future, we have more money to deal with, more money to use, or are things?
I guess you could.
Because we're constantly hearing that things are very dire. So
They are dire, and to get a AA bond rating in this financial atmosphere is quite incredible. We came with on Moody's an A1 with possible downgrading, so we were headed the other way when this management came on, and that's the most recent accomplishment, which is by the finance team. That's just wonderful. It's great.
Sure, John.
And I concur with what Arthur just said about the bond rating being a AA bond rating at this point. The AAA bond rating, which is the highest by Standards and Poor Act, cities of like Dover, Wellesley, and Newton are some of the cities that have that AAA rating. So for Ashland to have a AA rating is pretty remarkable in this economic times. And I see a cost savings, because if we have to borrow money, it's going to save us money in the long run. So that's going to save the taxpayer money. So I look at it that way. So hopefully, if this continues, this venue of saving money, it can only help us. And maybe that money that we save can go into the reserve fund, which is in dire need of an addition every now and then, which would be nice.
Okay. Bill?
Not sure how I want to say this. We need to find a way to create money in this town. Now, I really can't tell you how I would do this, but running it as a business, which I believe this town should be run as a business. If we could make money with this, with this system, it would be great. But we're not making money. We're hardly even breaking even. We can't even balance our budgets half the time. But you got to remember one thing: the school gets 70% of our money. So for us to live on that 30% and balance our budget and pay our bills, are we overspending? Maybe we are. I really can't tell you until I really look into the situation. But I really want to send out to the people tonight, all right, about CPA money, all right, that your taxes are not going to go up if we buy Warren Woods. And I want to take that, tell the people that your taxes are not going to go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Just thought I'd inject a little bit of good news in this.
All right. I just want to, I'm not sure what business means, but I think I understand what you mean. But state law that applies to all 351 cities and towns requires we must have a balanced budget by the time town meeting dissolves. We cannot carry a deficit like state and federal. And we're not allowed to make a profit. Every service offered by the town has to be offered at the exact cost of that service, no more, no less, with the option of opting out instead of not using that service. That's the law, and that's part of the restriction. That's what we do.
Yeah, Joe?
With respect to that, then, how do we generate a stabilization or reserve fund if we're supposed to come up with a zero balance?
That's part of the approach at town meeting that is approved.
Okay, so that works into it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So that's how we get to zero balance. I just want to make people understand that, because I'm sure they're going to say, "Wait a minute, we have a reserve fund here and a rainy day fund. Where does that money go if we're supposed to end up with a zero balance?" But the people need to understand that that's built into the budget.
And I also want to know that at the end of the year, we appropriate all these line items. Not all of them are completely spent. That becomes either free cash or stabilization. That's how it's done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Actually, we're learning a lot tonight. Actually, we are just about out of time. And so what that means is we want to give you a chance to reacquaint yourself with the viewers, with your very own closing statements. We began with Joe last time. Let's begin with Bill, going right to left. Bill Bosworth, who is running for selectman. Bill.
I'm going to make this short. As Howard put, this is my third time running. I'm hoping that you can see that I'm going to do my best. I'm an honest man. I've lived in this town 39 years. I have a lovely family. Like Joe said, we've been involved with a lot of youth. Youth is my thing. I just love the youth in this town, and there isn't enough that I could do for it. But I have the love of the town to try to step up and move forward. I swore when I came back from Vietnam that I would never get involved with politics. I had a sour taste in my mouth about politicians. But I've learned to grow. I was 18 years old at that time, and I've learned to grow up and put that behind me. And I'm hoping that I could really step up and help the town move forward in a better way. I really believe that I'm your man, and I could really do a good job. Thank you very much, and I hope I can get your vote on May 18th. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Arthur?
Thank you. Pleasure to be here tonight. My vision for the future is a more open and more responsive Board of Selectmen, much more than we have now. For half my life, I've been doing exactly that, trying to make this a better town. And I've achieved a lot. I'm not asking for the next half of my life, believe me, to achieve a lot more. As your selectman, I will not betray a trust. I will indeed uphold that trust. On Election Day, May 18th, you have a choice of, you have 2 votes for selectmen. You can choose any 2 of us if you like. I ask for one of your votes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Arthur. And last, Joe Mignani.
Thank you. I've been asked by several residents if I'm allowed to run for selectman's position while being a police officer for Ashland, and can I run? And the answer is yes. Precedent was set many years ago when Gary Galani ran for selectman and held a 2-term office. So that shouldn't be an issue. And I know some people have asked me about that, so I just want to clear that up. They have to realize that I have to recuse myself from any and all conversations with the Ashland Police Department. If there is an issue that arises as a Board of Selectmen, I have to remove myself from that. Or else I would be in strict violation of the conflict of interest laws in Massachusetts. I've talked with many residents over the last couple of weeks, going from neighborhood to neighborhood, and asking me if I'm running as a team with one or the other candidate. I explained to the residents that though I have the utmost respect for both candidates running, I'm running independently. And should I be fortunate enough to win an election, I'd be more than happy to work with one or the other to move Ashland in a positive direction. I love this town. That's why I never left the town. I'm looking forward to working with the Board of Selectmen in steering Ashland in the right direction. I know financially the future looks bleak, but hopefully we can work together on that. And I would like to make Ashland a place that's a positive place for families that can learn, play, grow, and call home. And I ask for your support on May 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank all 3 of you. Again, Joe Mignani, Arthur Shapiro, and Bill Bosworth. Those 3 gentlemen are running for 2 open seats. Arthur is running for re-election, and the other open seat has been vacated, or will be soon vacated, by current Selectman Adam Schuster. So I want to thank you very much for being here, and I want to make sure that you vote May 18th, Tuesday, May 18th. There's also a contested school committee. There's also a school committee race on that day. So very, very important. This is a very important election. A lot of important decisions to be made, and you are the folks that can make those decisions. So May 18th is Election Day. Get out and vote. I'm Howard Kaplan from WACA-TV. Thanks, David Riley, editor of the Ashland Tab, and also from the Metro West Daily News for being here. Again, I'm Howard Kaplan. Take care and good night. Bye-bye.